Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
What's going on, guys? Another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. And man, in this one, we have the Bottomland blueprint. I have honestly not really seen much from these guys, but we got in contact a long time ago, and I've been trying to schedule this. The main one I've been talking to is Casey, and he seems like a really good dude. I've checked out their Instagram, dude. These guys know how to kill some giant deer. Probably wasn't right to say that I haven't heard much from them, but I also, there's a lot of people out there. I'm still trying to figure out, who's out there, and follow a bunch of different accounts. And, I really like what they post and what they've been doing. And I know their turkey season's been really good. Their deer season was really good last year. So this episode, I'm really excited for it, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it as well. Before we get started, we got to get the partners out of the way. Dialed Archery. If you're watching the video, you can see my bow behind me. You can't really see my sight, but it's I love that sight, dude. It is probably it's definitely the nicest sight that I've ever had. And the sight picture is perfect. The adjustability, the dialed Arxos is by far the best sight that I think is on the market. So if you need a new sight, go to dialedarchery.com and check out what they have. There's multiple different colorways, different options, void dial options. I know Working Class has their own specific void dial. There's also some tack editions. There's a bunch of stuff, man. So go to dialedarchery.com and check out everything that they have, and I don't think you guys will be disappointed. Next up is going to be Osseo gear. I know last week, unfortunately, I forgot to put Osseo in the intro, but it was 5 o'clock in the morning and we were getting ready for tack, and I was not awake. You could probably hear it from my voice. So, Osseo gear, man, I love that brand. That camo pattern is awesome. And, if you guys haven't checked it out, go to osseogear.com, check out everything that they have. And then at checkout, use our code SEBH, and that saves you 15%. It's only a one-time use code. I am working on getting one that you can use more than just once. So go use that code, make it happen, and get some of the best camo on the market. Next up is going to be Summit Tree Stands. Dude, I said it last week. Josh is going hog hunting this weekend, and unfortunately I have plans, so I won't be there. But once I'm able to go, I will be using my Dual Threat Pro SD to get in a tree, go after some hogs, and then obviously this deer season, that's going to be the stand that I use. Summit is a staple in the industry when it comes to climbers. They make more than just that, though. If you don't hear this every week, they make climbing sticks, hang-ons, safety harnesses, accessories for all their different tree stands. And, they really care about safety and they care about quality. So go to summitstands.com, check out everything they have. And then once you pick out what you want, use our promo code once you're at checkout. And it is SEBH15, and that will save you 15%. Man, next up, dude, VPA. Ryan, thank you. Thank you for having us out there at TAC. Me and Josh had a blast. I still am super sore. I'm recording this probably 2 days after we went to TAC, and dude, I've been hurting all day, but it was a lot of fun. My bow was not shooting right. It turns out, before I got it fixed, and I don't know what caused this. It's probably having to mess with the cables and whatnot. But before I got it fixed, and a new sight a new rest. My bow was set at 70 pounds. Now it's at 67. It's actually more comfortable. So, I'm not complaining. But shout out to BPA. Dude, easily one of the best companies we work with, and they make some of the best products on the market. If you are looking to change broadheads, or maybe you want to get in the single bevel game or the double bevel, they've got so many different options. I couldn't even list them all. So go to vparchery.com, check out all of their stuff. It's not just broadheads. Check out everything they have, man. And once you pick what you want, use our promo code that they were so generous to give us, SEBH10, and that saves you 10% site-wide. Real quick, I know these intros can get long, so I'm gonna make them fast. Obsession bows. I definitely am still getting used to my HP33, but I love it, man. It is by far better than any bow I've shot so far. And if you can tell, I've got some new grip tape up there to maybe try and find a little bit more of a consistency. The grip is really, really skinny, but a lot of people like that. I'm just getting used to it. But other than that, the draw is amazing. The bow is very well made. And dude, I am just so thankful to be working with them. It is a blessing for sure. So if you're in the market for a new bow, go to obsessionbowsrefuel.com and check out all the new bows they have. They've got the Bone, the Ultra Mag 360. I've been saying those wrong the entire time. I didn't even know that till today. But Ultra Mag 360 Plus, there's the Ultra Mag NT, and there's also the Vengeance 354 and the Vengeance NT. Those are all the new bows for 2024. And I'll tell you what, man, they're pretty cool. They're nice. They're nice. So go check them out. I mean, they're going to be hitting dealers soon. I talked to Dennis. The Bones have already shipped out to dealers. So find a dealer near you and go shoot one. See if it's something that you're interested in. I think you're going to like them. I love mine. Next up is going to be Ace Hardware in Social Circle. Big John, they went to TAC on Sunday, and I know they had a really good time. I am honestly just blessed to be able to work with those guys and know those guys really well now. And so I just want to give them a shout out. If you want your bow tuned, want your bow worked on, go to those guys. There's nobody better. At least in Georgia, right? So next up will be Bergie Bowsmith. You can ship him your bow and he will tune it, paper tune it out to I think he told me 60 yards or something like that, which is crazy. And that's bare shaft tuning. That's not fletch tuning, which if you can get an arrow to hit where you're aiming at 60 yards with no fletchings, dude, that bow is tuned. Yeah, man, go check out Bergie Bowsmith. He's one of my boys. Amazing bow tech. Next up is going to be the Huffbuck. If you don't know what the Huffbuck is, that is the largest typical whitetail that has ever been killed in North America. I believe 211 inches, and that is Dustin Huff, man. He's got his own brands, the Huffbuck. And I promised him I'd start pushing his stuff, because we've become pretty good friends over the past year, and I just want to help him out. Man, who else we got? Real quick, Scout Tech. Shout out to Ryan and them, dude. My cameras have been doing so good. I haven't even had to change anything on them even before season was over. So Scout Tech is a very quality made product. Go to their website to check everything out they've got, and dude. Really, really good company, really good people behind that company. And I cannot wait to see what happens with them. So look, we got all that out of the way. What I'm going to say next. The next and last thing I want to say is if you don't know Jesus, please, 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 please get to know him. Take a chance. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. I've been going through a lot of hard stuff right now. All right. I'm not going to air it out on here. It's nothing you guys really need to concern yourself with. It's just things in my life that, I'm having to fix. And Jesus is at the forefront of that. He is what gets me through the day. Aside from my wife, my daughter, Jesus is always there and always helps. So, I'm not perfect. Nobody is. And he didn't come to heal the rich. He came to heal the sick. Sick people need a doctor, and he is the best one there could ever be. So, look, I'm not going to get too preachy. Just give it a chance. Hopefully this reaches somebody that is willing to do so. And if you've given your life to him and that's because of what you've heard me say, I'd really like to know, to know that I'm at least maybe helping somebody out. But anyway, this episode with Bottomland Blueprint, dude, it's going to be a good one, and I cannot wait for you guys to listen to it. So enough rambling, long enough intro, I guess. Sorry guys, I hate the long intros. You can skip it if you want to. Yeah, let's get started with Bottomland Blueprint. All right, y'all, we got Mr. Casey. Never told me his last name, but Casey from
Johnston.
What was it?
Johnston with a T.
Johnston. Okay, so here we take two. We got Mr. Casey Johnston from Bottomland, or I'm sorry, the Bottomland Blueprint. If you guys don't know who that is, they've got this awesome Instagram channel or page, I guess. And if you go on there, you're going to see some giant deer, a bunch of turkeys. And they've got probably one of the coolest logos in the entire industry. Me and Casey have been talking for a few months now. We tried to set this up a month or two ago. And
yeah, man, it's just been crazy.
Yeah, both of our schedules, I feel like, have been nuts. And so we finally were able to set it up where you could come on here and we could just talk about it, talk about hunting, talk about y'all, talk about, what you guys are doing. And just have a good time, man. So before we get into all that nitty gritty stuff, man, what you been up to? How's turkey season been? How was your
Uh,
deer season?
I man, deer season was probably the craziest season I've ever had. Uh, a new dad. I got a son that's a little over a year old. I got another son due July 17th. Uh, so just getting used to not hunting as much as I normally do. Um, that was the big thing for me. I went a total of 17 sits this season, and I I watched one of my best friends shoot my number one target buck. That was a crazy story. And then I killed my number two, and I killed a really really nice public land deer in South Carolina. It was just crazy. I did a lot of summer scouting, and as you could tell, my shirt Scout Tech.
Yes,
Man, I
sir.
love them guys over there. Uh, I got I don't know 11 or 12 of them running at all times, and that played a big part. I kind of watched the weather, watched the cameras, and kind of picked and choose my days on when I would go sit. And I didn't have a bad sit all year, honestly. I mean, I would see 5, 6, 7, 8 bucks a sit.
Jeez.
Uh, a lot of that during early season.
Yeah.
But the so the first deer of the year, man, I'm hunting like suburban type area over there, and I got my mom's place is about 30, 35 acres, and I killed so that all came about 4 years ago. Well, this would be about 5 years I've been hunting that place. And first year I ran cameras on it. I had like just a stud, palmated 4.5 year old. They named him Moose. Uh, I ended up killing that deer the following year. So I hunted probably 200 sits on that deer. I don't know how many hours, how many all day sits. And the crazy thing about that deer was he would daylight like 8 or 9 times a year,
Mhm.
but it would be raining. It'd be 8 o'clock in the morning. It'd be 1:30 in the middle of the day, or there was just no pattern about it. So, dude, I can't tell you how many times I sat all day just praying that would be the random time he showed up. But I ended up killing that deer the day before I got married. What I think 2, 3 years ago now.
Mhm.
I can't remember. Uh, I should know because that would be my anniversary the following day. But
Man.
he ended up going like he grossed 142 with 30. He had Kansas mass. I mean, he had like 35, 36 inches of mass. Up
Jeez,
near his G2
dude.
is like as wide as four fingers. I mean, it's just insane.
Wow.
So I killed that deer and just started strictly just managing. Oh, and the way I basically uh I shoot nothing less than 5.5. I mean, I let them get to 5.5 years old. Now that's on a property I managed, and I constantly watch these deer and know these deer. I had a heartbreaker this year. I had he's I haven't put hands on him, and I know the name of the fella. I'm trying to get in touch with him so I can score him. Um, I've been watching this deer since he was 2.5. He was a mainframe 10 at 2.5. He's probably 100, roughly 25, 30 inch, 3.5 year old. And this year at 4.5, he was uh so at 3.5 he was a mainframe 10
Yeah.
with he had little nubs where he's trying to be a mainframe 12, and he had two little like crazy looking drops on one side. This year he was a mainframe 12 with two extra tines on one side. So he had 8 on one and 6 on. He's like 150 inch 4 year old,
Good
and he got
Lord.
killed on the last. Yeah, he got killed on the last weekend of season, and I mean, my deer typically make a 15 to 25 inch jump from 4.5 to 5.5.
Dang.
Um,
Are you feeding them out there?
I was I do. Um, I just started feeding protein a couple years back, but
Okay.
um,
Like, have you
Nothing too
noticed?
crazy. I mean,
Sorry, have you noticed when you do that, like when you started that, um, like a jump in growth
so the thing
from the
with
protein?
no,
Really?
it's a it's really a genetic thing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I've heard.
in my opinion. So and the thing about protein, you will see the results, but most people don't ever see the results because they pay $1,500, $2,000 for all this pallets of protein they're feeding the deer, and they do it for a season, and they're like, "Well, I didn't see no results."
Yeah,
You're not going to see results with protein until about the fourth year.
I could see
Um,
that.
you want your fawns to grow up feeding in the trough,
Hmm.
and you basically want a fawn to 1.5 year old buck eating. Now he goes his whole lifespan eating protein. You'll see results.
Yeah,
Um, but your deer that are 4.5, 5.5, I mean, just eating protein over the summer, I mean, yes, it helps, but you're not going to see no crazy jump
yeah.
um in your herd, within the first probably 2 or 3 years. You
Yeah.
won't see much. You might see
That's
body weight go up,
yeah, like that's why I
maybe a
was
little bit of
asking
fat.
because when and I don't mean to cut you off. It's just you got my wheels turning now.
Yeah,
Uh, when I first started, feeding protein and all that stuff and figuring out, like you see these guys, and I'm not knocking the companies, but like you see them say, "Oh, it's got 20%," and it'll
the
make them
deer only
blow
need
up. It's like,
no.
and that goes to the mineral thing too. I got a buddy of mine. I did an episode with last week, and we were talking about how he's going to be putting mineral out, and I was like, man, are you sure you want to spend the money on that? Because it's not going to make a difference. It might
It
help a little
helps.
bit, but
It helps, but I mean, it's one of them deals. You got to implement it. You got to stick with it,
yeah,
and it gets expensive and it gets discouraging. It's kind of like going to the gym for 6 months, working out and not really seeing the results, and most people quit.
yep.
I mean, it's the same concept.
I'm one of those guys. That not all the
You
time,
got
but
you got to stick it out and keep going, and eventually you will see results.
yeah.
Now, one thing that my theory, like all you see these Atlanta deer and stuff with Lee Ellis and Sequin and all them guys, and people are like, man, how is there that big a deer in Atlanta? And this is my theory. Um, I don't know. I'm sure you drive through Atlanta a pretty good bit.
Yeah, I was there a lot today, unfortunately.
There's kudzu everywhere,
Yep.
and kudzu is high in protein,
Yep.
and it's been there for years.
Hmm.
And there's never really been hunting pressure until, I mean, they started YouTube, and I mean now it's a madhouse up there. But back in the day when you had Jay Maxwell and Lee Ellis, and there was a couple other people that never post pictures or do anything like that was hunting then.
Yeah.
But them deer grew up with zero pressure, and they had the protein during summer. It's good bedding.
Oh yeah.
It's good, really good bedding, high in protein, and them deer grew up eating that stuff. So I
Yeah.
mean,
I can tell you for a fact that your theory is not a theory, it's a fact. Like if
yeah,
you go down there and see all the kudzu that's out there and you just see the caliber, because like JD lives near Atlanta and near
yep,
where like they, all hunt.
mm-hmm,
And some of the deer he's had, dude, and I've hunted his property with him a few times. And like I've just looked around and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like we don't
yeah,
have this out by me.
yeah.
Right. So
So I have about a 5 acre patch. It's not on my property; it's on an adjacent property. But there was an older gentleman and his son hunting it, and his son passed away. And the dad, he was older. They quit hunting. I talked to the property owner and I said, "Hey, look, I don't really care to hunt it." I said, "But if you're gonna give it permission to somebody, can you please at least call me and offer it to me first?" And he was completely fine with that. But so I don't have much hunting pressure around my general area,
mhm.
and I do have the kudzu patch and stuff, and it's right next to Fort Gordon, which is now Fort
Oh,
Eisenhower or whatever.
yeah.
So I'm roughly about 600 yards from the Richmond County line. I'm in
Dude, I'm up by
Columbia.
you guys every week. I'm out in Augusta
Yeah,
every Friday. I didn't know that.
yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
I live in Aiken. I work for Columbia County Sheriff's
Yeah.
Office. So
Oh, okay.
I'm over that way all the time.
Huh.
But
Didn't know that.
so I know I've been kind of scattered around, but so the beginning of the season, man, I put a bunch of time in on uh just running cameras this summer, kind of
Mhm.
bouncing around some of the areas. I never really did venture out too much because I had 35 acres. I've put food plots in. Um, there's good bedding. I mean, I hold deer on my place. Um, my issue was I got a handful of old, like really old bucks
Yeah.
that are some of them are shooters, and some of them are like five pointers. That's like 220 pounds,
Jeez.
and they're running all my good deer away. My three and a half and
Well,
four and a half year olds that I'm trying to grow, they're pushing
yeah.
them off. Well, I had a handful, 4 or 5 bucks I was really looking forward to seeing this year, and none of them showed up. And a deer I didn't even think about. I had trucking pictures of him. He's roughly about a mile and a half up the road on a property I had permission to hunt, and I wasn't even thinking about him. He was like a 120-inch 4-year old 10 point last year, and I put a camera up over there just to put one up and see what's over there, and he shows up this year. He's 5.5, and he went from high teens to 120 to like a 140.
Man.
I mean, he's 19 inches inside, uh, just huge frame, big body, just a tank of a buck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm all in, like all in on this deer. And then around right before season come in, I get a picture of another deer at my mom's place. I call peg leg, and he actually tore his Achilles tendon. He had a jacked up leg. I think he tore it on a barbed wire fence or something.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
But he shows up, and I'm like, okay, I got a number one and number two, and peg leg. Uh, he was 8.5 year old deer. I've been trying to kill him for a long
Good
time.
Lord, man.
Yeah.
And he's
Uh,
crippled now. Like, how is he getting around you?
so the deal with that deer, he'd stick around. I last year, not this past season, season four last, I had him opening day in legal light, but he faced me for like
Mhm.
15 minutes. And then when he finally got broadside, it had done, gotten too dark to see through my peep and all that stuff.
Yeah. Dang it.
Um, and then like 3 days later, he come in again and couldn't get a shot. I had a shot. I wasn't going to take it. It was one of them deals where it wasn't really worth it. I could have killed him, or I could have very easily made a bad shot.
Mm.
But so I let him go, and around mid October he always disappears. But so back to the 10 pointer, he's summered over there across the road, like a mile and a half down the road. Um, and season comes in and he starts moving, and I'm like, I knew it was going to happen. He starts moving. Well, he's coming to my mom's. So he's
Oh,
coming a mile and a half, crossing the paved road, and he's at my mom's.
okay.
And I'm like, all right. Well, it was late September. Season's been in for a few weeks, and he's at my mom's house. He's there for like 3 or 4 days in a row. And while he's at my mom's, that 9.5 year old 5 pointer, that's like 220 pounds, he's showing up every afternoon over there where the Big Ten summered.
Yeah.
Daylight, clockwork. I told my buddy Aaron, I was like, dude, can you please shoot this management butt for me? He's like, yeah, sure. So he brings his bow. I bring my camera gear. And the Big Ten was at my mom's house all night till like the last picture I got him was like 3:30 in the morning. And was not even thinking about that deer, you know?
Hmm.
We got to get in the stand. I mean, we got does piling in. We done seen 7 or 8 bucks. It's getting right there at gray light. And I look up and just see a big body deer coming. I'm like, get ready, it's him. And when he rounded the bend, all I saw was, I mean, just giant frame. I was like, dude, it's the Big Ten.
Oh no.
I was like, it's the Big Ten. And I've known Aaron, dude, like I'm 31 now. I've known him and we've hunted together for like 18 years, bow
Yeah.
hunting. And real good friend of mine. And I was like, look, dude, don't let that deer get out of here. Like,
Please tell
do
me he
not.
shot him.
Yeah.
Yes. Good.
I told him, I was like, if he gets, when he comes in, go ahead and shoot him. And I filmed him shoot the Big Ten, and super proud of him, super happy. The whole situation. Most people were like, "Dude, you're crazy." I'm like, "It's just a deer. I
Yeah.
got plenty of other deer to hunt, and you don't see deer of that caliber in bow range like that often." He ended
Yeah.
up he ended up green scoring gross 138 and 3/8,
Nice.
and I had him after deductions at like 133 and an
Yeah.
eighth or something like that. Um, I I'm still waiting to hear back from Fortner Taxidermy. He's got him. DNR is supposed to score him and get him entered in. He should be the new Columbia County archery record.
Oh wow, dude.
Yeah,
That's crazy. And you got this on video?
yeah.
Did you post it yet?
No.
Ah.
So we we're new to the whole YouTube deal. Uh, I got a pile of footage. And we're trying to get used to the whole B-roll and
Mm,
adding all the little filler stuff in and stuff
hmm.
like that. So we're gonna when we try to get some free time, we're gonna try to play around and do some editing and try to get some videos out.
Yeah, that's one
Just
thing, man, that like I've known because I mean, obviously this is going to be on YouTube, right? Like the podcasting part of it is pretty easy. You just click record, edit it up a little bit, and you post it. But
yeah,
like the guy I was telling you about earlier, the one that's the guide up in Michigan for turkeys, he's getting heavy into filming those hunts, and he's had a hunt now for 2 weeks that he called me right after they I don't want to spoil it, but right after they were successful, right?
yeah.
And he was like, dude, like, freaking out. Like I told you earlier, he calls me at 9 o'clock in the morning, yelled at me about 30 turkeys. And I'm like, okay, what
I
about
need
the
to meet
deer
this
though?
guy.
Huh?
I need to meet this guy.
Oh, dude, he's awesome. Look up Brock Wingo. Awesome name, awesome dude. And
Yeah,
he is he's a really cool kid. He's only 20 years old, which is nuts. And he is every single weekend guiding for turkeys, and every weekend he's getting people on birds.
I'd
And I'm
love to
like,
do that.
dude, yeah, I mean, hey, reach out to him. Maybe he'll take you on a hunt. But
Yeah,
back to the editing thing, man, like filming a hunt and editing that, I don't think I have the patience for it. And I know how I am in a tree too, where it's
yeah.
like I'm not worried about what a camera's doing. If I see a deer I want to kill, I'm focused on killing that deer. So
Yeah.
hats off to you guys for being able to do all of that. Cause like I know
It's
I couldn't.
it's a it adds it definitely adds some difficulty to it.
Yeah.
Not only filming, but dude, just carrying all that equipment.
Yeah. Dude, I
So
saw Brock's pack and it's huge. Like he's going in the mountains for 2 weeks. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? I'm
yeah,
like, you're carrying all that stuff in. He's like, yeah, it's not that bad. I'm like, nope, I couldn't do that. But again, it just see that's why I respect guys that film hunts, like y'all and him and all the other guys, Jay, whoever.
yeah.
Because it's like I know what it takes to do that, you know,
It's
and
rough, man.
I don't have the patience. Like I need to get to the tree, get up in the tree, settle down, and just wait. I don't
Yeah.
want to be fiddling with a camera arm and worrying about angles. Because the thing is, if I did all of that, if I went through all that work,
Super OCD.
well, but once I'm done setting up and a
Yeah.
deer comes in, I'm not gonna remember to set the camera on it. I'm just gonna think, all right, bow, clip, pull back, and that's it. And then I'm gonna be looking at the camera like, oh, it's still looking at the tree. It'd be a waste of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, y'all got my respect for that, honestly.
That's that public land buck I shot this year. That was crazy. So the whole backstory on that deer, I got a couple pictures of the deer, and he was. I'd get a picture of him, and it would be like a month later, I get another picture of him. I was like, I'm nowhere near this deer's home range.
Yeah.
But after Aaron shot the Big Ten, and then shortly after, like 2 weeks after Aaron shot the Big Ten, I was like, Boom, focused in on peg leg. That deer, like I told you, mid-October, he'd always leave, and I knew where he was going. There's a couple big blocks of timber that's like sanctuaries basically around my place that does not get hunted.
Mhm.
And I had a property in mind, and I just never went and knocked on the door and talked to the fella. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I knocked on the door, talked to the guy. He was like, yeah, man, no problem. Go ahead. I hung a camera right before dark, put some corn out, hung a camera. Very next morning, after he disappeared, he shows up 8 o'clock, broad daylight. And I'm like, oh my God. It was a
On that new
Sunday.
property?
Yeah.
Nice.
I put it up that evening. He showed up the very next morning. My son's over there looking at me through the fence. Uh, but anyway, so it was a Sunday. I had my son. My wife was working. I called the in-laws. I was like, "Hey, can you watch Little Man? I got a good feeling it's going to go down this evening." And
What's he
uh,
doing?
looking at me through the fence,
Oh.
talking to me. But anyway, I went that afternoon. I shot him 6:30. I mean, like an hour before dark. First sit, and I was like, all right, what do I do now?
Right?
I was like, because I had some other, super not like 120, 125 inch 4-year-olds,
Yeah.
like really nice deer, and I mean, would be a monster for some people, but to me, it's all about dude. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I don't know how you do it, to be honest. Because I've seen some like, I've seen one 160 on public. And
Yeah.
that story I've told 1,000 times. If you've ever listened to the podcast, I'm sure that you know it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, I mean, the biggest deer I've ever killed is right behind me. That's
There's nothing wrong with that.
So, but I've had other big ones on camera. Like I've been
Sure.
after them. It's just
This camera
I've
charged up
connected it.
enough. I'm gonna go mobile real quick. I will give you a look at Moose, the deer we
Okay.
was talking about.
Sounds good to me.
Um, he's actually in my son's room.
Oh, that's cool.
Uh,
He gets to see him every day.
yeah. I ask him, "Where's the deer?" And he'll point to it. So this is Moose.
Ooh, okay.
This is that's. Let me see if I can get him out. Or
And what did he score again?
gross score, which is what I go off of. 142. That's what I was telling you about.
Good Lord, man.
You can see it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
he's
stud.
we had this extra 10-inch time right here. That's what really kind of screwed me on the net. But
That looks so good, dude. That's such a good deer.
so when I get my 2 deer back from this year, I'm actually gonna do a really cool pedestal mount, like a 3-way pedestal mount. But that's Moose. Well, I got you in the house. Doing a little tour. I'll show you some of my other deer. This is a public land deer. South Carolina public land deer.
Okay.
You can see it. He's just a wide frame baby for him.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's a stud too. So you basically know what you're doing when it comes to killing big deer, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. And man, to be honest with you, like this deer, this is a private land, Allendale County, low country deer. That's 100 and he went 111, which most people. I mean, he's a good deer.
Oh yeah.
I'm not taking anything away from the deer, but I mean, would I mount another 111? No. But that deer is just a cool story. I actually shot that deer twice in the same season with the bow. He was showing up every afternoon. He was showing up like clockwork on his food plot, and I said that evening he come in just like he did every afternoon, and I shot him 27 yards. He jumped the string on me. I hit him high, broke like 4 inches of the hair off in his spine.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, he ran off, and he would start showing up all over the property. So we kind of just I took I took the map and drew a line like a center point from every camera he was showing up on, and just drew a dot, grabbed a climber, went in. It was just deep in the swamp to that center point, and I shot him that it was a month later, but I shot him that afternoon. He come in behind the doe at like 4:30.
Dude. So
Yeah.
let me ask you something about that. So I'm assuming you use like the e-scouting maps, right? Like Spartan Forge, Onyx, and all that.
Yeah.
Have you noticed? Because when we had Clifton Denny on, he was telling us this little secret about most of the Pope and Young deer he shot were on like the fat line on a topo map.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that?
Yep.
What is that?
So
Like, why is that? If you had to guess.
man, it all depends on thermals. A lot of it has to do with thermals. Your bigger deer are a lot smarter. Like, so now that we're on this subject, I'm gonna dive into the public land deer that I
Yeah,
shot this year.
please, because I'm hunting a lot of public this year, so
Man,
help me out.
I after both of my target deer got shot, I had already got the picture in September of that public land deer. I'm like, I'm devoting the rest of my season to this deer, like all in. Deployed like 6 cameras over there on public, and was not getting him on camera. And finally, boom, I get another picture of him. It's kind of the same spot, same general area. He's headed the same way. And I send a picture to a buddy of mine, and he's like, dude, so and so has that same deer on camera. And I knew him very well, called him, and was like, hey, you know, just want to give you a heads up. We're hunting the same deer. I'd rather work with you than against you. I said, anything I learn, I'll share with you. And if you can hunt him, go hunt him. We'll just work together. And we kind of talked, looked at studying Onyx, sharing pins, like kind of where all we've seen him. And I boiled it down to this deer was landlocked by private.
Mm.
And everybody was hunting from the same direction.
Huh.
And I was like, dude, I narrowed it down. So where I parked at the gate to where I shot the deer was 1.98 miles, which is 2 miles to me. It's a 2 mile walk from the gate.
Wow.
But the only way to get to that deer, you would have to have something out of the east. You would need, which typically we get a northwest, west wind, during the winter.
Yeah.
Um, Northwest or a north, he'd have smelled me before I got to him. So I had to have a northeast. It was November 1st and 2nd. We had the second cold snap of the year. And I had a northeast wind both days. And I went in the first day like a mile and a half. So there was 2 different ridges back there.
Mm-hmm.
One of them had 3 little high spots on the top of basically the top of the ridge. So I had like 3 little saddles. It was super thick. It was right next to like they had just planted pines,
Mm-hmm.
but they were younger planted pines that's super thick. Um, it was it was a perfect spot, but there was 2 different ridges, and I figured he kind of bounced back and forth. Um, After the first, so I hunted the deer. It took me 2 weeks to kill him,
Mm-hmm.
and I sat on him 4 times,
Wow.
and I kind of just eased my way back,
Yeah.
you know. And what I did honestly a lot was I spent hours studying onyx, like different ways where I was getting him on camera, where I knew the hunting pressure was at, and just studying the maps. And I narrowed it down. I was like, he's living here, like no doubt he's living on the like right back here. And I got about a mile back from the gate and saw like where somebody trimmed out a lane going to this big white oak flat.
Huh.
Uh, I called my buddy Chris and I'm like, hey, was this you? And he said, no, there's an older gentleman that comes in from the private and he's got a stand back there.
Mm.
He said he's hunting the same deer too. So like he had been hunting this deer for 4 years. And
Wow.
um There's my son again. He's got his golf club. Dad. But so I was like, well, I'm a mile back already. I know I'm not far enough back. That's how I kind of narrowed it down back there. But I set basically what I figured was his bedroom the first morning till about lunchtime. I knew I didn't see any deer that morning. I knew if I saw one, it would probably be him. I elected to pull my set. I do a hanging hunt. I got some Summit sticks and a Millennium, the little ultralight, like Millennium, super
Yeah.
light. I got that, all my camera gear, my bow, and all that stuff. So it's a lot to tote in, especially 2 miles. But
Yeah.
I pulled all my stuff. I went back to the very end. There was an oak flat on the side of a ridge, and you got a creek bottom down it, towards the bottom. I set it that evening. I didn't see a deer, and I wasn't discouraged because where I was at was more or less a morning spot because your thermals would be rising.
Yep.
And they can hang out on the oak flat. And it's just that deer was very smart. But I got in there the next day and filmed some turkeys come through, and then about 9 o'clock, I had I had a doe come running up out of the bottom, and I could hear a buck grunting behind her.
Mm.
She come up almost up to the top of the flat and kind of just 45 and went back down. And I never did see the buck. 5 minutes later, here come a 2.5-year-old 8-pointer. He come up, fed on some white oaks, and walked off. About 30 minutes later, I hear a deer coming off to my right from the creek bottom. I look over and it's a doe. She comes into 5 yards right under my tree. And like I got my camera arm hanging out, my bow over here. She just skylines me, looked straight up.
Oh no.
She didn't blow, but she kind of bounded off about 25 yards and couldn't figure it. She just stood there and looked at me. She couldn't figure out what I was.
Yeah.
And she just walked on off down into the bottom. 2 minutes later, I hear a deer coming, and I look to my right. And this deer he went 127, but he was 12 and like 2/8
Oh wow.
inside spread.
So he was tight.
No, yeah, dude, like the biggest basket rack I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But his G2 on his right side was 13. Yeah. I mean, he was just like, dude, he was like super tall. I look over and all I saw was tines, and I was like, dude, it's him. I knew he was coming down that same trail she was on. And
Yeah.
at that point, as much work as I had put in on that deer, I did not get no like Discovery Channel footage of this deer.
Yeah.
I panned out, set the camera up, got the bow. By that time, he was right up underneath me.
Drilled him.
Yeah, 5 yards.
There.
I
5 yards. Good
Yeah,
God.
I could have jumped on his back.
Dude.
I shot him walking and peg leg. I shot both of them. I shot peg leg at 7 yards.
That's with a bow?
Yeah, just right on. I mean, I wish I'd have had a long bow.
Yeah.
I want to
that
get a
would've
long
been
bow and get into it. Yeah, because I mean, 5-7 yards. I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been bad, but
That's crazy, man. Like because I had a doe on public. I can get pretty picky, and especially when I see that I know there's big deer in the area, I'm not just going to shoot a random, 1-year-old doe, which I really wouldn't do that. I'll do that anyway. I did do it without realizing it last year, but it is what it is. But yeah, I had a doe and a like little spike buck within 5-10 yards last year, and they did the same thing. But what's weird is they looked up and the buck like scooted off, right? Like he was behind the tree. I kind of peeked my head around and like super slow, watched him walk down, and then he just happened to look up and he just gone. The doe then, like 2 minutes later comes in the same way, walks right under me, and I'm like, dude, I could just smack you right now and you wouldn't even know it hit you. But I just let her go. And then of course, the caveman side of me, my monkey brain was like, what are you doing? Shoot it. So by the time I get my bow down, because that would have been my first public land deer. Like I've seen deer, I've never had a shot except for then.
Yeah.
And by the time I decided, she was like facing away from me and walking up the little hill, and I'm like, well, whatever. There'll be more. And then of course 10 minutes later my buddy shot one, and so I had to get down and go help him. But yeah, I mean it's wild when you get that close. you know?
With a bow, and I have nothing against people rifle hunting.
Yeah.
I actually brought the rifle out this year and went and did some doe management for a buddy of mine on some big ag fields and shot a couple hogs. But there's something about bow hunting, and I grew up hunting public land. So
Yeah.
we didn't have private land to go hunt or anything like that. And when I grew up hunting, like, dude, I'd be like 3, 4 years old. My dad would have me out there. It would be, me, my dad, my uncles, my papa, my cousins, my
Yeah.
brother. And we'd be all out there as a group, not sitting together, obviously, but we'd all go together and
Yeah.
split off and, all meet back up and kind of tell our stories. And it, that's just
Sounds so
how it
cool.
was. And, I didn't start really learning about aging deer or scoring deer or any of that stuff until I started hunting with a good buddy of mine, Alex.
Yeah.
And he kind of introduced me to all that stuff. Like, I remember going with him the first time. He was like, "All right, now, like, we go to this property. It's got to be, this big buck or whatever." And I remember letting 100, looking back on it now, like 125-inch 8-pointer walk because I didn't want to get in trouble. But it was the biggest deer I'd ever seen, at the
Yeah.
time. And I mean, he was standing there at 15 yards, and I had my rifle, and I was like, "Hey, there's a big deer right here.
Yeah.
What do I
Dude, you
do?"
could have just
What's
drilled him.
Yeah. And then I meet up with Alex, and he's like, "Dude," told him about the deer, and he was like, "Yeah, he was mature. Like, that was a big deer. That was one of the deer that was on the hit list or whatever. You could have shot him." And I was like, "Dadgummit," you know, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I
That's
kind of
crazy,
learned.
man.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, transitioning a little bit. I want to know about Bottomland Blueprint. Like, what? Obviously, you have the Instagram and all of that, but what's the idea behind that? How'd you get to that? And what's kind of the goal with that whole thing?
All right. So here about 5, 6 years ago, I go on a QDMA youth hunt, turkey hunt,
Hmm.
and meet a handful of guys. They're from Low Country, South Carolina, um, and just kind of stayed in contact. Um, I don't know whose idea it really was, to be honest. It's all happened so fast. I mean, it was
Hmm.
like a year ago we decided to kind of come up with a logo and do our own thing. Um, but originally it was me, Corey, and Will. So they're all, one's from Williston, the other ones are down Low Country, South Carolina. Um, Corey designed the logo, Corey Cease, and I mean I absolutely love it. I don't know if y'all can
Oh, they'll
put
see it, dude.
it
It's
there.
so cool. I
Uh,
as soon as I first saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that's because that's something you'll remember, you
oh
know?
yeah, and that's what I mean, we kind of just we got into it, kind of wanting to film hunts, get footage, get content, put it out there for folks to see, and not really worry about where it goes.
Hmm.
Just
Just do it for fun, kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. If it don't, we don't care. We all got daytime jobs. I mean, we stay busy. A lot of us now in the group have kids, so it's hard, honestly, for us to get stuff done. We got some good looking hats, hoodies, shirts, a bunch of merch we want to get out to people, but
Yeah.
we haven't gotten our LLC, tax ID number and all that
Yeah.
stuff so you can legally sell. And, you know, deer season ended. A couple of the buddies, had kids, and uh, we just all been so busy with family and work, and now turkey season is winding down. So we're gonna try to get some of that stuff done this summer, which summer's a huge time for us too, prepping for deer season.
Mm.
Food plots and all that fun stuff. But we just gotta try to find some free time to get some of that stuff done. We are gonna start doing some YouTube stuff. Like I said, we got plenty of footage from this year's deer season, turkey season. Um, just trying to I don't know, learn and go along. Try to the editing thing and getting the B roll and getting used to being in front of the camera and stuff is the biggest thing, man. Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
cause
like
like
we were talking earlier, dude. You know that editing stuff. All I because I wish I could help some and be like, oh man, just do this. It's much shorter. But all I literally do when we do these is take this file, put it in like InShot or something, kind of trim it a little bit, maybe split it, throw the intro, throw like the guest photo up with the title card,
yeah,
and that's it. And then I just throw it on YouTube and it works. But like, you know, when you do a hunting video, and I've never, I've said earlier, I've never filmed a hunt before, but I feel like you want to put something out that's not just, like a video of y'all in the truck and then at camp and then in the tree and then you see a dead deer on the ground. Like you want to put something in there that creates a story, you know?
I'm so bad about it, honestly. Like Will, I think, put up a video up on our YouTube, but it's like a talk over, turkey hunt.
Yeah.
And I'm so bad that like I don't want to. I when like the first when we start putting videos out on the regular, I want it to be like top notch, like
Yeah.
really good. And I guess I need to not be as picky because, like, dude, honestly, like the hunting public. So originally, I started watching them when they first started, as like it was funny to
Hmm.
me, like watching them guys. But over the years of just filming and like some of them, like their turkey calling back in the day was just like the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. And it was comical, for me to
Yeah.
watch. But to see where they went from the beginning to now is
Oh
just
yeah.
mind blowing. Like, which a lot of them guys, were they started out with Midwest Whitetail,
Yeah.
uh, doing that, and you could tell. But like Ted and a few of the other guys that was on the show with them was like, all right, these guys are green as they get.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
now
it
look
was
at
it was obvious, man. But like, even with like Seek One, I mean, I'll be honest, I prefer their older stuff compared to now. And that's not knocking on them. It's just like back then, when they were still hunting Bane and Thor and Zeus and all that,
it was more of stories.
it was more stories and like the voiceover stuff. There. I hate to even say it, but there was drama to it. Now it's
Yeah,
like, hey guys, we're here in Kansas and we're gonna go hunt public whitetails, and then it's just them running around shooting at a deer, or Lee kills a giant, or whatever, And
yeah,
it's fun to watch, but it's like there's no, they're gonna kill, and if they don't, it's just them trying to. And I
yeah,
understand that's mostly hunting. Obviously it's not called killing, right?
yeah.
But at least with the old videos, there was a story. Like you knew something was coming. There was a cliffhanger. And now it's like I just don't get that same feeling, you know?
No, it's like, oh, Lee kills another 200.
Yeah, right. So when you guys start getting those out, my only my only ask is that you do the story stuff because that to me is
And
really what
see,
catches people attention, you know?
what's I wouldn't like this. I filmed some hunts back at like I filmed my first hunt probably 11 years ago, 12 years ago, but I got away from it and I just like, man, I got like 4 grand probably tied up in camera equipment now. And uh this deer season, like I was bad about not getting the B-roll stuff. It's kind of just like, okay, the deer walks out, I shoot him,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have no closing or nothing like. So like some of the footage and stuff from this deer season will be, and I'll probably wait till I get the deer back. It's probably going to be like one of them, like you're sitting there, I got the deer mounted on the pedestal mount behind me, and I just showing a little bit of the clips of the hunt and kind
Yeah.
of explain, almost like a storytelling,
Yeah.
basically,
And
is
those
what
are
I'm gonna
cool
have to
too.
do with. Yeah, it's probably what I have to do with a couple of my deer that I shot this year. And I know now, like just going through this turkey season, I've gotten a lot more B-roll. Like this, I went to Kentucky and Tennessee, not well, yeah, last week. I got back last weekend.
Oh wow.
Um,
For
that
turkey?
was, yeah, 8 days. We got whooped in Kentucky for 2.5 days on private land, and then went to Tennessee and killed on public.
Now, what kind
But
of turkeys are in Tennessee? I don't know anything about turkey hunting, so it could be one of those Osceolas that looks like a rainbow, if that's even the right breed
no,
or
so
species?
Oscillated look like the peacock. They're down in like South America.
Oh, we don't have those in the United
So
States?
you have a Osceola, but the Osceola looks just like your typical Eastern.
Oh, okay.
Uh, their wing bars are like dark, like almost black.
Yeah.
In Florida,
Okay.
they're a smaller bird, typically 14, 15 pounds, 16 pounds maybe. Um, and around here we have Easterns, Tennessee, Kentucky Easterns. It's kind of like Easterns up the, East Coast.
Yeah.
You got out west, you'll have Rio and Merriam's. So Merriam's like the white tip, like Nebraska
Those are
area.
cool.
Yeah. They got like that farm turkey gobble.
Yeah.
That is just hilarious to me. I don't know. I'll go experience it one day, but I just something about the Eastern and the thing about Tennessee and Kentucky, the mountain birds, dude. It's like they when they gobble, they got a microphone at the end of their,
Oh,
I mean, it's just
I've
ridiculous.
heard them just being
Yeah,
up there, on vacation or something. You'll hear it, and you're like, God
yeah.
dang,
You'll be on like the
got
next
a
mountain over.
dinosaur.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Do you? So this honestly is totally unrelated, but you made me think of it. There's elk in Tennessee now. Do
Yeah.
you have any idea if there's ever going to be a season for that?
So I think they do in Kentucky. They have a season, um, but it's more like a resident thing. Um,
Mm,
I don't even know if you can get a non-resident tag for an elk in Kentucky. I'm sure there's a way you can. I don't know. Never really looked into it. Uh, Eventually, yeah. It's kind of like, man, the turkeys. We got to do something about it. Population, which they don't have any issues up in Tennessee and Kentucky. They got a pile of them, but
yeah,
yeah, you can see the decline around our area, Georgia, Carolina,
yeah. I've
in
heard about
certain
that.
in
I've
certain
heard
areas.
there's numbers going down a lot. Like I get turkeys on camera all the time. I sent a picture of my buddy Brock. I was like, "Oh
Yeah,
man, check these hens out," and he goes, "Dude, that's a Jake and a Tom. I can see the beard." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I couldn't." Like when I tell you, man, I don't know anything about turkeys. I really don't. I've gotten
have
into
you
about
ever been?
no, because here's the thing. I've gotten into about almost 3 fights with turkeys in my life.
Yeah,
Like no joke. I've had turkeys chase me. I had one that wanted to brawl when I was at the zoo one time. He was trying to get out. I don't know what it is about turkeys, man. They don't like me.
yeah,
So maybe I need to go out there and smack one and just show them, like, look, y'all don't want this.
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I've got the equipment, but the main thing that keeps me out of the turkey woods is I hate the heat.
yeah.
And I spend all my time during deer season. Like, I mean, early deer season, it's hot
Oh yeah,
and
dude.
that's a struggle. But
Yeah,
so I go through all the, deer season and it's cold and I'm enjoying it. And then it starts warming up a bit and people are like, oh man, turkey season. I'm like, nah, no, AC season, buddy. AC season.
yeah,
Just get me through the hot months. I'll sweat it out and put deer feed out a little bit, watch them grow, and then come deer season, we'll be back out there. But I
yeah.
know I'll go eventually. Like
I was gonna say we ought to get together and go, man. Because dude, I'm telling you, once you get the experience, like I don't know, it's a addiction like I can't explain.
it does look fun. Like Brock sent me a video from a couple weeks ago of them killing some turkeys.
Yeah,
It did look like a lot of fun because the way he was set up is he was in like some brush patch or whatever, and he had the camera facing the field, and these turkeys are out there strutting, and they're like walking closer and closer and closer. Next thing you know, you see the shotgun barrel come up, and I was like, "Oh, he's about to shoot that turkey," and then he just pulls the trigger, and it's like, pow, and the turkey just starts flopping everywhere. I was like, that does look like a lot of fun. But see, I
it's a lot different around here.
in what way?
Uh, well, I'll say that. I mean, you could go to Burke County, somewhere like Burke County. It's got a lot of ag fields and do
Yeah.
similar, basically the same thing. Because my mom's side of the family's from Michigan. We got a family farm in the UP,
Mhm.
but it's a lot of ag fields and stuff like that up there. It's different hunting field birds versus like
The
timber
birds.
birds. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just different tactics, really. But Like Tennessee, you got when we went up there, it was not hot by no
Really?
means. We camped in the tent. Kentucky, the first night in Kentucky, it was 30 degrees.
Oh wow. See,
Yeah,
now you're talking my language.
yeah, we're in a tent.
Now
I'm
we're
in my
talking.
I'm in my full like deer outfit. Like I got a Drake non-typical suit, and I love their stuff. I've been using it for years now, but I bounced around and tried a bunch of different brands, and uh, I would always rip my pants,
Hmm. I've
and
done.
these have actually held up. But anyway, yeah, it was like 30 degrees first night, and like wasn't the first 4 days it was pretty cold. Like halfway through the trip.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, the next day we drove to a local Walmart up in Kentucky and got the sleeping bag, 30-degree sleeping bags.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because it was like going to be in the 30s at night, and but it was a fun trip. It warmed up later in the week in
Yeah.
Tennessee, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking for the past 2 years about taking trips to hunt other places. Like I'm from Illinois, so I know people that are up there. I mean, Kurt and the guys with working class, talk to them all the time. I doubt they'd let me come hunt their spots, but maybe if I ask enough, I could be like, hey guys,
And
please. But
we just
that. Sorry, go
need
ahead.
I like I travel for turkey.
Yeah.
I've never really traveled for deer, and I really want to. Um, I want to go to Illinois, hunt public land.
Yep.
You never know what you're going to see, man.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
I've got buddies that do it, and they sent me a video of a 190 that was like 200 yards away. And I
yeah,
was like, yeah, that's Illinois. Because growing up, so I didn't grow up in a hunting family. Like I
yeah,
love deer. My uncle hunted, but he wouldn't let me go with him.
yeah,
So me and my dad, when I was a kid, would just go off to this nature preserve and we'd watch deer in the field. And I'm
yeah,
talking like you couldn't hunt there, so there's no pressure. There's plenty of food, and they're just giant. And then
yeah,
I moved down here when I was 6, and we go find some deer out here by Lake Lanier, and they're like half the size. And I was like,
yeah.
"What's
Like,
going on
what
here?"
is this?
Yeah, I was like, "Is that a dog?" Like,
Yeah,
it's just crazy, man. But like, what I really want to do is go out west. I want to go to Colorado or Nebraska or something like that. But I will tell you, I got my butt handed to me this past weekend at TAC.
yeah.
I'm not ready for out west, dude. I did one course and I'm still
Did you
sore.
shoot the one at down? Where was that at?
Dahlonega?
Yeah,
Yeah, we were there Saturday.
I got you.
Yeah, and we did the Jack Links course, which isn't even the hardest course.
Yeah,
And halfway through, I'm looking at my buddy Josh, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I've already almost fell into a creek 3 times, leaned back when I was going up a mountain for some stupid reason. Like, dude, it was a struggle. And
yeah,
I don't really struggle that much when it comes to like walking up things, but it had rained and it was wet, and I don't know. So I've got a lot of work to do before I go out west. 'Cause
yeah.
those little Debbie's ain't helping.
Man, we put in over 50 miles in the mountains last week, and it was rough. Oh yeah,
That hurts just to hear that.
yeah,
I did 5.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Which it don't bother me too much. I'm used to it. Like back home, like around here on flatter ground, I
Mhm.
walk 10, 15 miles on public. Like it
Yeah.
ain't. But
I mean, you do it enough. It's kind of like Cam Hanes.
yeah,
He's always the one that I'd compare it to because I'm like, that dude runs 30 miles, 40 miles a day. And then
yeah,
he's bouncing up these mountains that are real mountains, not like Georgia
yeah,
mountains. But we're talking real mountains, like a
yeah.
damn Billy Goat. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It'll happen. But me and my buddy Thor have been talking about going to public in Illinois. So if that happens, I'll let you know. And if you want to tag along and there's room, we'll make it happen. Because
Oh yeah,
I mean, the Brewster buck was killed in Illinois, and Lord knows what can happen. That was 6 years ago.
yeah.
So I'm sure there's another one, something like that out there. You know?
Man, it's just like I'll be honest with you, going up there, I'd be happy with like a 140.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
oh yeah. I wouldn't be picky. I
if
would not be picky. Not for
he's
the first time. You know?
if he's mature, I don't care what he's got on top of his head.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could tell, 5.5, 6.5 mature deer, it's a trophy with a bow. It don't
So
matter what he's got.
how do you do that? Because I've got a deer, and I know everyone does it differently, but like I've got this one deer I named Tank,
Yep.
and I've heard multiple different like antler size guesses. I've heard from 110 to 130 to 140. I think 140 is a bit of a stretch, but he's kind of been the same antler size the past 2 years. His body though is enormous. I mean, he's literally a tank. And
So
like, what are you looking for? Like, how can you see a deer and be like, oh, 4 year old, 5 year old, 6 year old?
the easiest way to tell you, uh, so a 4.5 year old looks like he's blocky in the chest
Mhm.
and super narrow in the back.
Okay.
So he's got that, mature looking face,
Yeah.
nice looking rack, super blocky chest, and then super like tapers off pretty skinny in the back.
Okay.
Your 5.5 year old, he's gonna start getting a gut. He's gonna have, like a sway in his back. And now this is the thing though. Early season, early season, your deer are gonna look typically for me, they look about a year older than what they really are.
Really?
With velvet, their body weight, and all during
Yeah.
the summer. Uh, and then they shed their velvet, and then they blow up during the rut. They'll look at, they'll look even older.
Hmm.
You take a 3.5 year old in the rut, he swells up, got a big old neck, and you're like, okay, he looks 4.5.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the time of year. Then you get towards the late season and they start losing all this weight. You take a 5.5, 6.5 year old, and now he's 160 pounds and will
He's
run
little.
down. You're like, okay, he looks like a 4.5 year old.
Yeah.
It helps to not have history with deer and know
Yeah.
the deer. Um, Based off of what you're telling me, um, which is different on different properties. I know my deer and what they typically do. Uh, from 3.5 to 4.5, they normally make a pretty good jump.
Hmm.
4.5 to 5.5, they normally make 15 to 20 inch jump, 25 inch. Um, 5.5 to 6.5, they don't jump much,
Yeah.
just a little bit, maybe a little bit on time length. Mainly a lot of mass,
Hmm.
but pretty much stays the same.
Okay.
And it goes like that from 6.5, 7.5, 8.5. He may just put on a little bit more mass. He may go from having split G2s to, like a turkey foot on one side.
Yeah.
Um, Not much is going to change about them, but they're just going to throw some different stuff at you.
Okay. I'm gonna send you a photo that I've been getting
Okay.
of this deer, that I think is Tank.
Yeah.
And because this deer already is, I mean, his antler growth is looking good. He's starting to split. But the thing that's really getting me is he's got that belly. And
Yeah.
I've never seen a deer this early have that. So
Like
I'll
a
send you a
brisket.
photo of him. No, like
Yeah.
I'm talking belly.
Oh, yeah.
So he's old. I know that. I can't tell how old because, one of my buddies was telling me that he thought Tank was 6. And I kind of, it seemed like a
Based off of
stretch for
what you
me.
told me, I was going to say 6
This year or last
just
year?
last year. If you
Really?
said he's had pretty much the same rack for the last 2 years and
Yeah.
ain't really changed much, um, I'd say 6.5.
Okay. And
Because
it's true that when they get older, their home range shrinks, right?
100%.
Okay. Well, I may be able to get him this year. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, he'll be the biggest for sure, unless he just goes downhill. But based off what I'm seeing, nah. I mean, I've seen sheds at this property, dude, that one side was, I mean, it had to be 70, 75 inches.
Yeah.
And so I know there's big deer out there. It's just he's smart, man. He's been giving me the runaround. And it's kind of the same thing you were saying. Like these deer are a lot smarter than we think they are.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and I'm limited because it's only 7 acres. So I'm having to draw him in. But if he's already showing up, like if that really is him and he's here now, I'll just keep feeding and he'll stick around. And maybe the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I'd be able to catch him. After that, he'll probably run off. But
That's so key, man. Like the first 2-3 weeks of Georgia season, like
oh,
just
it's the best.
there's a lot changing, but you could really like Low Country, South Carolina. It comes in August 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it is nothing to pattern a velvet buck.
Oh yeah,
And
Joe Miles does it all the time.
yeah, I mean it's insane. Uh, especially a lot, around them ag fields and stuff
Yeah,
that are tucked away from the road, and they ain't getting full width. I mean, it'd be nothing to kill the biggest deer on the property in velvet every year.
yeah,
Uh, but with Georgia season, bow season coming in a little bit later than that, it's kind of in that time frame of them shedding, and they're about to transition from summer to fall.
oh
You
yeah,
know, and they start moving a lot, start doing a lot of things different. It kind of throws you a curveball, but it a lot of things to look into on that deer would be access. Uh,
that's the tough part.
yeah,
That's the
access
tough
is key,
part.
dude. You got to have good access.
Yeah, I mean,
If you don't, then
basically the way it's set up, and I'll keep it as simple as I can because I could go full detail, but it's at my grandparents' place, and so
yeah,
their house is by the road, and they
yeah,
have this little trail that goes down and then goes up to a clearing. Behind that is nothing but woods for like at least a half mile to maybe a mile. It's
yeah.
just hundreds of acres back there. I can only hunt to their property line, but I know the deer do come from over there and then come back down, hit the creek, come back up, come to the field. He always, except for a couple times, I'm not gonna say once, but a couple times, he always comes from the same opening in the wood line, comes and hits the field, and then leaves back the other way. I've never seen him come from behind where my camera's at, which is like if you look at where the camera's facing behind that, their house is maybe 500 yards away.
Okay,
But
so you're doing good already. Your
I'm
pattern,
trying, but I only have one way in.
yeah.
So
And if he's coming from the neighboring property, coming onto your property, and you're coming from this way, you're good.
yeah,
Um, just having a clean access to get in and get out. He's not crossing your path on the way to the stand,
mhm.
which it doesn't sound like. The biggest thing there would be like, say it's opening day of Georgia season, and he ain't showed up in daylight in like a week or two.
Yeah.
Just because it's opening day of Georgia season, don't go hunting.
I probably won't be able to this year anyway because I think I have a wedding that day to go
Yeah.
to. So,
So
but yeah,
the biggest key for me this year was, I mean, like, just because I could go hunt, I'm not gonna go hunt.
yeah, I did the same thing. I mean, I that property I'm telling you about, I only hunted 4 times, and
Yeah,
I saw more deer this year than I ever have because
that's
I have
how.
other places to go.
Yeah.
So
So I hunted peg leg 5 times and killed him, and I never stepped foot. I pulled all my stuff from that. My property is basically a sanctuary. I
yeah,
want them deer to feel as comfortable as they can.
that's what I
Um,
was trying to do. And a lot of the big buck killers that you see, like I know Jay doesn't hunt the same property a lot. I know Waddell and them usually don't.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I'm not going to say Bomar because I don't really know anything about him, but I know he kills a lot of big deer. But
yeah.
I'm sure they
Now
don't do the same thing.
well, he'll hunt the piss out of a deer, based off of a lot of his videos. And I mean, but he'll put 50, 60 sits in. He's got the time to do it.
That's true.
Us working folk don't have that time, and
Yeah.
which I'm not saying he work. He don't work. I
Yeah.
don't want that big joker coming after
Us
me.
9 to 5ers. Yeah, right. Have
Yeah,
hairless Sasquatch chasing you down.
yeah, but
Yeah, I don't know. He's a lot to handle, I feel like, but he seems like a decent dude. I don't know why
oh
he
yeah,
gets all the hate,
I like I like watching his videos.
Yeah, they're entertaining, and that's the
Yeah,
point of it. But I don't know, man. I feel like every time I have someone on that knows how to kill big deer, I'm picking their brain on this one particular deer, and it's just he's daylighted one time in 2 years,
yeah.
and it's
Sounds
always
like sounds like the moose story. So what finally killed that deer for me was I I figured out where he was. Like, I knew his summer pattern. I knew where he lived during the summer.
Mhm.
I could not figure out his fall. bedding area, like his
Yeah.
general area he stayed at. I finally figured it out, and it was right up under my nose the whole time, like on my place, right next to the pond. Like I walked over there one day in the middle of the day, and I never had any desire to walk back there, but I just went up in there. I had to look because it was in the back of my mind, and it's like get on your hands and knees, like crawling through some super thick stuff, and I
Yeah.
was like, he's living right here, and
Huh.
I had been hunting him on the opposite end of the property. Didn't even have a camera running over there, so I put a camera up on basically the main trail coming out of that bedding area, and I started getting him on camera. Set up a spot, set up a stand, killed him like a week later.
Dude. Isn't it crazy how that all comes together?
Yeah.
Like you catch one thing and it just leads to everything else.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like I've been putting in the work long enough. I'm hoping the Lord blesses me with tank this year. 'Cause,
Have you done anything different on the property? Have you set it like put in a food plot or
well,
planted anything or
no, I don't really have the equipment.
I got you.
So, I mean, I keep it as simple as I can. Like, so what I used to do, and I think the year he did daylight, um, that was my only place to hunt. I mean, I had public, but I wasn't really familiar with it like I am now.
Yeah.
And our seasons on this particular WMA are only you get a 3 week season when season first opens, and then you get one archery season in November, and it's like 3 days. So it's really not a lot of availability there. Um, so that year it was 2022. I had already killed pickles, so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I can just go to this property all the time, and it was a big mistake. So last year, what I changed was I had cameras. I had a camera on the field. I had a camera on the very back ridge, and I believe I had another camera on the left side, kind of near the creek. So I was watching where it was kind of like a triangle, to see
Got
where
you.
they're coming from. And
Did you have corn or bait or anything like
oh
that
yeah,
on any
yeah, yeah. I feed them
all
year
three of those
round.
spots?
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
you.
I made sure there was food at each spot, and what I noticed was the majority of the time they would hit the field and they would come up from the ridge. They didn't really hit the left side. I mean, they would every now and then, but it wasn't as often. So last year, like I said, I only hunted it 4 times. I hunted the field twice. And I say field, it's maybe like a half-acre clearing. Like it's really
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
I had a mock scrape set up. They were hitting that mostly at night, but they were hitting it. And then hunted that field twice, saw a doe, decided not to shoot her. I probably should have. And then, oh, I'm sorry, no, I hunted the field 3 times. And in January, I went and hunted the backside because I was getting a lot more movement back there, and literally sat for 30 minutes, shot a doe, and that by that point I was burnt out, And
Yeah.
Tank was gone, like he disappeared in November.
Yeah.
So it's getting better. I've learned, to just go in when the wind is right and not every weekend. Like I'd rather sit out
Bingo.
the weekend. And
Bingo.
so I think this year is going to be a little bit better. I mean, we'll see. There's
The
plenty of
main
other
thing,
options.
especially bow hunting, I mean, the biggest thing is hunting the right conditions.
Yep.
Like I used to be bad about it. I'm not going to say I didn't. I learned just like everybody else does. Years ago, I would go every chance I get. I didn't care. I didn't even look at the wind. I didn't care about that crap.
I remember
I'd
those
have deer.
days.
Yeah. I was just like, oh heck yeah, I got a chance to go hunting. I'm going.
Yep.
Now it's like, all right, what's the pressure going to be like? What's the wind direction going to be like?
Mm-hmm.
Is the wind changing from this way to that way? There's so much that goes into pulling the trigger on going to hunt or not.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing. A deer will pattern you quicker than you will pattern a deer.
Believe me, I've learned that.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way many times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, last year I did go every weekend, but I have 4 different spots I can go to,
Yeah.
and 2 of them are one of them is actually right down the road from me. It's like 5 minutes away. It's 1 acre. And those deer are so different than any other deer I've hunted because even if you go every weekend, they don't care.
They're coming
They'll
back.
still
Oh,
show
yeah.
up. Yeah.
And
So
it all depends on the area thing too. I mean, if they're used to human activity,
yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
it's on Jackson Lake, so like there's
yeah,
people around all the time. But then
yeah,
you go 30 minutes over to Monticello, where Tank's at,
yeah,
dude. I would go like check the camera in the back end of the property because I didn't have a solar panel on it, so the batteries would die. I just go back there to freshen up the food and put
gotta get
batteries.
that solar panel, dude.
Dude, well, I've got two of them. I've got one on the small property and one in the field. It's just
Yeah,
Ryan hasn't. I haven't been able to talk him into getting me another one yet.
yeah,
So
I
I'm
love it,
working on it.
dude. That's the biggest
Um,
thing, staying out of an area as much as you
yes,
can.
yeah, and so like I'd go back there and they'd be gone for 4 or 5 days, and
Yeah.
I just realized I was like, dude,
Another
because I'm
thing,
thinking it's the food. You
yeah.
know, it's me.
Here's another tip. Plan as best as you can. Uh, Batteries, if you're doing batteries and cameras, checking SD cards,
Mhm.
or even putting corn out. If you see rain in the forecast, do it like right before the rain or right after the rain.
Yep.
I don't care what people say. I mean, I've had corn get rained on. Them deer, if they're coming in there religiously hitting it, like, dude, my deer will go through 400, 500 pounds. I mean, that's in like 7 spots
Yeah.
of corn a week.
No, I believe it.
So, I mean, if they're coming in there hitting it, hitting it, hitting it, hitting it, if it rains on the corn, it ain't no big deal.
Oh
They're
yeah.
still gonna eat it. But now, if it rains on the corn and it goes a week untouched, then yeah, they're not
Yeah,
gonna
it's
eat
gonna
it.
mold up, and
Yeah,
I've experienced that. I mean,
but
I usually use like the buck bourbon stuff or Trax or
yeah,
all those protein soybean peanut butter.
yeah,
That's one thing that I've learned, and it's so funny because me and Josh were making this joke when we were going to tack um, about someone we know that's like, oh man, I got the secrets, corn and peanut butter powder, and I'm like, that's not a secret, dude. You can buy it. Like you
yeah,
literally have bags they sell that's like that. But I will say they love it. That is
oh,
the
yeah.
best thing I've ever put out. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. There's so much I still have to do. Like I got a stand I need to hang. I'm going tomorrow to put some feet out and freshen up some camera batteries on that property where Tank's at. And yeah, I mean, I'm feeling the heat now because we've only got, what is it, May? 4 months.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
and it's gonna go by quick.
oh, I know I'm so excited, but I'm not ready yet at
Yeah.
all. But look, Casey, we've been at it for almost an hour. So before we wrap this up, first off, I definitely want to get you back on because I know there's a million more things we can talk
Oh,
about.
dude, we could talk for hours.
Yeah. Uh, Two things. First thing is, I was looking at y'all's Instagram and I saw in the bio um, something about our Lord and Savior. So how important is that to you guys? Like when it comes down to, your hunting and all of that? Because I mean,
That's
I've
huge, man. Like,
yeah,
uh, so I I take every chance I get and every opportunity I get to try to tell people about Jesus.
mhm,
I mean, I'm comfortable with talking to people. At my work, I deal with these inmates all the time. Uh, I'm at the jail. I do maintenance for the sheriff's office. And I talk to these guys all the time, and I'm like, dude, I try to like just pound it as much as I can into them. I mean, you never know, man, when you could change somebody's life
yeah,
uh, for the better. I mean, and I try to tell them, how I do it,
mhm,
and I'll talk to them, and because I mean, 10, 15 years ago, I was running the roads doing crazy crap, man. I mean, we've all been there. That's what I tell them guys. I'm no better than they are.
yeah,
We're no different. You know what I mean? We all sin, but uh, I tell them the best thing I could tell them is get your head in the Bible and find you a hobby. Because I mean, you find you a hobby and find you a job. I mean, you work while you're constantly thinking about that hobby, you got planned your weekends planned out. You got plans in advance. You're
Mhm.
too busy to get in trouble. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I just, I don't know. I'm always trying to, talk to people,
Yeah. I mean,
witness to people. I mean,
yeah. Well, that's a big that's why I was asking because I saw that in like every single intro now for maybe the past 2 months. I'll do all the partners or whatnot. And then at the very end, I'm like, all right, and look, guys, if you don't know Jesus, I highly recommend you get to know him because he's helped me out. He's changed my life. I mean, so
man, the way this world is this that today, I mean, it's crazy.
it is, dude. And that's why I started doing it because, I got baptized maybe a month ago, or I got baptized on Easter, actually.
Yeah.
And
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
appreciate it, man. It was a crazy, crazy experience, right? And I mean, like you said, we all sin, we all fall short, and but
Don't
it's
you all you can do is try to do your best.
exactly,
I
and
know I know where I struggle at. And I mean, I try and pray and, you know, try to
yeah,
be the best we can.
yeah. I mean, I'm in the same boat, dude, and that's why I push it on the podcast because I'm like, look, guys, I've had Jay Maxwell on. He was and I'll be honest, man, Seek One and Jay really, because I know Jay's doing his own thing now. They were a big part of not only me getting into bow hunting because I would watch their stuff and be like, oh, dude, that's really cool. Because I grew up 20 minutes from those guys. I didn't even know
Yeah.
they were there,
Yeah.
And, I've become friends with Jay now. And like, if I have any questions about the Bible or hunting or anything, I can call him and be like, hey, man, what's up with this?
Yeah.
And them being so open with their faith brought me to be like, okay, I can actually pursue this. So when
Yeah.
I
I
saw
mean,
you guys, I
yeah.
was like, I got to ask.
Oh, yeah. I'm not like, not ashamed or, I mean, not scared to talk about Jesus or God. I mean, I, I don't know. I feel like there's nothing to be, I don't know. I feel like people just get nervous.
Well,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
because I mean, they think you're going to be the fire and brimstone, like if you
Yeah.
sneeze, you're going to hell kind of thing. And that's the wrong perception.
It's, I mean, we all sin. I mean,
Hmm.
nobody's perfect, but, that doesn't mean go out and make a bad example of yourself,
Yep.
like go out to the bar, close the bar down and, just do stupid stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't give you an exemption,
Yep.
like they don't give you free range to kind of just do what you want to. I mean,
Yep.
you got to try.
Yeah. You can't take advantage of that because
Yeah,
it doesn't even work that way. But I
because I'm
wanted
gonna
to
go ahead
ask
and
you
tell
about
you.
it, man.
Yeah,
I had to. So the last thing I want to ask you before we, which I enjoyed that by the way. On the next
yeah,
one, we need to talk about that more.
oh yeah,
Uh, The last thing I want to ask you though, before we wrap it up, is what can we expect to see from Bottomland Blueprint? Because I know you were talking about YouTube videos. I know the Instagram. I mean, you go on that Instagram, dude. You see some giant deer. You see a bunch of birds. Like y'all got a lot of cool stuff on there. So I mean, what are we going to be seeing from you guys this year?
man. As far as anything planned out, I'm just hoping and praying I can at least get a shot or have a shooter to go after. Um, as far as me, but as a group, I mean, man, we're just trying to look forward to getting more content. We got drones now. We're getting a little bit more
Okay.
into the whole filming, getting more footage. I stay on top of I say my guys, we're all a group, but uh, like they've they've killed the crap out of the turkeys this year,
I've been seeing it.
and I'm like, did you get it on camera? Well, I'm like, dude, like if we're gonna do this, we
Gotta
kind of
film it.
got like, I know. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, us as a group, our most of us like to turkey hunt more than we do deer hunt.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's okay.
but deer hunt's a close second,
Yeah.
and I'm still like all in. I'm go above and beyond when it comes to deer. But
Yeah. I mean, from what you told me today, I believe that.
but these guys, they're like me. I mean, we're just now getting into the filming, and they don't like watching the turkey walk off because they know how much goes into it. As far as I've gotten my butt whooped this year. So, like the first bird in Tennessee, we got that hunt. The second bird that Will shot, the bird I actually called through a barbed wire fence, and I could see him with my own eyes, and I had the camera kind of low, and I didn't want him to see the camera and kind of wig out. And as I'm raising the camera up to get the kill shot, Will shoots. So it's kind of like camera comes second kind of
Yeah.
deal. And a lot of us in the group kind of got that mentality, but we're gonna have to start letting, like, deer might get away from us, or a turkey might get away from us. If you're gonna be in the filming industry, the kill comes second, the kill shot comes first.
Yeah. Just makes the story better.
Yeah. We're just gonna try to keep getting as much content as we can and putting it out there and kind of getting used to the whole filming and YouTube aspect of everything. But look forward this summer to getting all our legal stuff done so we can start selling some merchandise. I know I got a bazillion people wanting hats, hoodies, and everything else. So
I'm one of them.
yeah, I'm wanting to get some of that stuff out. And I mean, we've been going now for like a year, and everybody sees the logo and the hats and stuff, and like, you got one, and it's kind of like, well, I hate to disappoint everybody. I'm constantly getting asked, but hopefully we can get some of that stuff knocked out here pretty soon, so we can get some merchandise out and maybe get a website started and all that good stuff. So we're just really 2024, 2025 season, we're really going to just try to focus on growing, getting some of our stuff kind of finished up. That way we can get some merchandise out there, some more content, try to get used to this whole YouTube thing.
Awesome, man. Well, that's a good way to wrap it up, buddy. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it.
We need to get together and shoot the bow.
Yeah. Once my schedule lightens up, man, I'm planning on trying to make some trips out there. I know Ryan's been asking to get together and shoot too, so I mean, maybe we can set something up. But
he's got the perfect place to do it too.
I know he sends me pictures all the time, and he's like, "Hey, bro, what are you doing this Saturday?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm with the family, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that." So
yeah,
we'll find a time. But look, man, I really appreciate you coming on, dude. And this was a lot of fun. I hate it took so long to do it, but hopefully the next one won't take 3 months.
Yeah. We'll try to knock something out again before season.
Yeah, the next one we'll do more in depth, like what we should probably be doing early season and tactics and all that stuff. So
sounds good.
It'll be information filled for sure.
All right, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you again.
I enjoyed it. No problem.